In the heart of West Africa, in a small village nestled deep within the dense jungles, lived a child named Kofi. He was an orphan, his parents having perished during a terrible drought that ravaged their land. Kofi's only companion was a worn-out stuffed bear named Bamba, a gift from his mother before she passed away. The villagers whispered stories about the cursed child and his strange, unblinking eyes that seemed to hold secrets of another world. Kofi had always felt like an outsider in his village. He never quite fit in with the other children, who would taunt him and call him the cursed one. But the one person who had always shown him kindness was an old traveler named Jomo. Jomo was a wanderer who passed through the village every few months, telling stories of distant lands and adventures. Kofi was drawn to him like a moth to a flame, captivated by the tales of far-off places and the promise of a life beyond the jungle. One fateful night, as a full moon cast an eerie glow over the village, Jomo came to visit Kofi. The old traveler had a glint in his eye, and he spoke of a secret journey, a road that led to a place where dreams came true. He called it the road to the unknown, a treacherous path that wound its way through the heart of Africa and beyond, to a place called Europe. Europe is a land of wonders, Kofi, Jomo said, his voice a low conspiratorial whisper. In Europe, you can be anything you want to be. You can have a home, food, and a family who will love you. But you must be brave, for the road is long and perilous. Kofi's heart raced with excitement and fear. He knew he had to take this journey to escape the life of isolation and whispers in his village. With Bamba tucked under his arm, he made a solemn vow to himself that he would follow Jomo on the road to the unknown. The next morning, before the sun had even begun to rise, Kofi crept out of his tiny thatched hut and met Jomo at the edge of the village. They set out together, Kofi's small hand clutching Jomo's weathered one. The jungle was alive with strange and frightening sounds, but Kofi had never felt so alive. Days turned into weeks as they traversed through dense forests, crossed rushing rivers, and navigated treacherous mountain passes. They encountered wild animals, battled hunger and thirst, and endured the harsh elements. But Kofi's determination never wavered. He was fueled by the promise of a new life in Europe. One evening, as they rested by a crackling campfire, Jomo told Kofi about the city they were headed to, a place called Tangiers, perched on the edge of the African continent, where they would make their final preparations for the perilous journey across the sea to Europe. The city was a melting pot of cultures and stories, and Jomo spoke of its bustling markets, exotic foods, and the mysterious people who passed through its narrow, winding streets. Kofi's heart swelled with anticipation, but he couldn't help but feel a creeping sense of unease. He had heard stories of children who had embarked on similar journeys and never returned. Yet he pushed those thoughts aside, focusing on the flickering flames of the campfire and the comforting presence of Bamba. In Tangiers, Kofi and Jomo found themselves in a maze of narrow alleyways and crowded bazaars. The city was a cacophony of sights, sounds, and smells, unlike anything Kofi had ever experienced. It was here that they met a man named Hassan, a wiry and enigmatic figure with a glint in his eye and a promise of safe passage to Europe. Hassan spoke of a hidden network of travelers who knew the secrets of the road to the unknown. He offered them a place on a crowded, rickety boat that would carry them across the treacherous waters to Spain, the gateway to Europe. Kofi clung to Bamba, his heart pounding with a mix of excitement and dread. As they set sail in the dead of night, the moon cast an eerie glow over the restless sea. The boat creaked and groaned as it navigated through the inky black waters. The night was filled with whispered prayers and the distant cries of other passengers, all hoping for a better life on the other side. But the sea was unforgiving, and a fierce storm descended upon them. Waves crashed over the sides of the boat, drenching them to the bone. Kofi clung to Bamba, his knuckles white with fear, as the boat was tossed about like a toy in the hands of a cruel child. The storm raged on, and Kofi lost all sense of time and place. When the storm finally abated, Kofi awoke on a desolate shore. his body battered and bruised. Bamba was still clutched tightly in his arms, but Joma was nowhere to be found. The other passengers had scattered, their fates unknown. Kofi had washed ashore in a foreign land, a place that was both strange and wondrous. But as he looked around, a profound sense of loneliness washed over him. He was alone in a land that held the promise of dreams come true, but he had lost the one person who had shown him kindness and guided him on this perilous journey. With tears in his eyes, Kofi clutched Bamba close to his chest and began to walk, his tiny footsteps echoing in the vast unknown. He had traveled from West Africa to Europe by road and sea, but the true journey had only just begun.